All right, and welcome back to the forecast card. Two pretty solid days overall. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make a video last night or this morning. Had the norovirus, kind of ran right through me. I just got right to bed early on. Didn't get a chance to really do much after getting into the slate. For those days, always check the spreadsheet in the description. I do update that no matter what. Anything in black is usually a bet that I'm taking. So um, yesterday, we went 5-2 and 3-1 on the leans. Didn't bet any of them, unfortunately, but they did all cash. Maryland, they just shot like basically sub 30%. They played incredibly well defensively, but yeah, they just couldn't make their shots, especially from three. And Oregon State, they were winning this game by like 15, 20 points early on. They just completely imploded. Other five, I would say, were pretty much all sweat free, all underdogs. So seems like I'm having a much better chance with underdogs than I am with favorites. So maybe I should take note on that. But yeah, not too bad. 5-2, and then today, best bet of the day, Robert Morris comes through 7.5. Fairleigh Dickinson, pretty sweat free. IPFW, I think they ended up losing that game outright. Yeah, they just sucked big time. Delaware, so close. They end up losing by 10, and it was to some late game free throws, which was unfortunate. Liberty, I don't really know how they actually lost this game. They were dominating early on. They were up 15 at half, and then they only win by 4, so that sucked. Rutgers, pretty sweat free. They almost won that game outright if it wasn't for that buzzer beater. UAB, pretty sweat free. Grand Canyon, pretty sweat free. And Washington State, even worse than Liberty, honestly. I don't know if anyone had bet that game, but yeah, they were up 28 at half. I think they led by 35 at one point, and they gave up 61 points to San Diego in the second half. 61 points. San Diego was held to 25 points in the first half, and they put up 61. So Washington State only wins by 7. One of the worst beats I've ever experienced in my life. Just complete implosion. No words. 61 points for a 4-26 team. 3-26, or yeah, sorry, 4-25 at the time. No words. So the two games that lost most recently, Liberty, Washington State, 2 implosions. Delaware lost at the last second, and Purdue-Fort Wayne just imploded. So overall, 10-6. I'm gonna go 1-1 on the best bets, bringing the best bets to 7-3 since I started recording them, and 10-6 over the last 2 days, not including these leans in the bottom left. But yeah, we take these green days. Hopefully, it's forward thinking for times to come. So let's get into the 5 games that I like for tomorrow. Heading on to game number 1, we have Yale heading on the road to play Dartmouth. Now, obviously, it's obvious that Yale is the better team, right? They're 18-6 in the Ivy League. They have been basically a top 100 team all year. Dartmouth, on the other hand, has not been that great of a team. Been borderline top 200-ish range pretty much all year. But they're playing some of their best basketball as of lately. They're going to have all of the momentum coming into this game. They play really well at home. And if you look at how they match up, this is a Yale team that, offensively, they kind of shoot a little bit of everything. They mostly shoot near basket and mid-range. Obviously, Dartmouth isn't that great at defending those two things. They're an elite 3-point defending team, so I think Yale is going to have to score more in the paint. But Dartmouth, like if they're not hitting their shots, this Yale team, this is a really good Dartmouth team at keeping hold of the ball. They don't turn the ball over too much. They're top 20 in defending their own boards. They limit offensive glass opportunities for the opponent. They are top 20 in limiting free throws. So even though Yale does shoot the free throw decently well, I don't think they're going to get to the line very often. So if they're not hitting their mid-range shots, which are, again, low-quality shots, I don't see where Yale's going to be able to run up the score here against this Dartmouth team. And again, Yale is a very elite defensive team. But the one thing that they don't defend well is the 3. They're top 150 in defending the 3, and that's also happens to be where Dartmouth is one of the better teams at shooting. They shoot almost 50% of their shots come from beyond the arc. And obviously, Yale crushed them by like 17 points or something on the road when Dartmouth was on the road. But again, when you're shooting threes, you want to be able to shoot them at home. And that's where I think they're going to find a lot more success, especially in a revenge spot. Last time Dartmouth was in a revenge spot was against Princeton. Princeton beat them by like 16 points. Princeton beat them by 1. And then Dartmouth played them again and crushed them by 15. So I think this is a Dartmouth team that plays with revenge. They're playing some of their best basketball right now. They crushed Harvard. They crushed Columbia. They absolutely destroyed Cornell. Somehow they lost to Penn. That was a bit of a weird one. Then on a back-to-back, they go and they beat Princeton. Okay, that was a revenge spot for Penn, so maybe that's why. Yale, obviously, they've been playing well as well. But against like Met teams, they crushed them, like Columbia, of course. Crushed Princeton. But against Cornell, they only won by 4 at home. Only beat Penn by 1. Only beat Princeton by 7. So again, this is a team that either blows you out or keeps the game close. And I think in this spot here, where they're going to be traveling, 4 games at home, kind of on the road, Dartmouth going back home, I think this is a really good spot to back Dartmouth here. I think if the threes are falling, they have a chance to potentially win this game outright. Obviously, Yale is always that blowout opportunity. They have a very solid, well-rounded team, but yeah, give me Dartmouth here at home to cover the 9.5. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We have Davidson head down the road to play VCU. Anytime VCU is at home laying, I just take it. VCU is one of the better home teams when it comes to just crushing teams that they should be crushing. And they've been playing elite basketball lately. If you look at the matchup-wise, they are going to dominate every aspect of this game. Their threes are going to fall. The shot that they don't take very much of is the mid-range, and that's the only thing that Davidson defends well. Everything else, they're basically outside of the top 200 at defending. VCU is going to dominate the offensive glass. They're going to dominate turnovers. There's really nothing that Davidson does better than VCU. On the other side, Davidson, they like to shoot threes. VCU, again, is a top 20 defense. They defend everything really well. I don't see a world where Davidson's really going to have that much success in this game. Maybe if they play hard and get to the line, but their season's basically over. VCU trying to lock up that first seed. Basically locked up, but I think this is the last game where if they win this game, they clinch it. So this is going to be a big game for them. Yeah, I think on paper, if VCU plays the full game, they should win this game by 40 points. And that's not even an exaggeration. I think they're that much better this year than Davidson. Obviously, Davidson on paper is not that bad of a team. But at home, VCU, top 100 home advantage. They play slightly better above their predictive ranking when they're playing at home. Davidson, they have played a little bit better on the road. But if you look at their last 5 ratings, they've basically been a top 150 team. Meanwhile, VCU has been a top 20 team. They are really locked in for this tournament. VCU, they're not an elite team when playing like top 150, top 50 teams. Sorry, but they're really good at crushing these opponents below them. And Davidson on the other side, they also don't do very well against these top 100 teams, and they do really well against dog shit teams. So I think VCU shows up for this game. If you look at their recent games, right, games that are close typically are games on the road. They beat George Mason at home by 16. They beat UMass at home by 29. They went on the road. George Washington by 8. Dayton by 5. Back at home, LaSalle by 30. Richmond by 41. On the road, they lost. Come back home, win by 14 over St. Bonaventure. Road, obviously they can blow out teams on the road, but most of the time when they do play at home, they're covering this kind of number. And we're getting them off of a win. Coming back home, St. Louis, Davidson just put up a stinker, 56 points against St. Louis. VCU is going to be a much harder defense for them. They've only broken 70 points once in the last 4 games, and that's against much, much worse defenses. Yeah, I think VCU can easily win this game by 30 points. I think they're going to want to clutch it and then kind of coast for the remainders of the game without having to worry about getting, backdoored in the standings. So give me VCU here at home to win this game by 20 plus. All right, game number 3, we have Princeton heading on the road to play Columbia. Now this Princeton team, man, they have been stinky. They have been really, really bad, and I don't understand why any team should be getting points with them, or why Princeton should be getting 5 points here as away favorites. Obviously, they've been the better team than Columbia. No one's denying that, but I just don't like this. Like, you can look at their stats, but like they have not been playing up to that quality lately. They're a team that shoots a lot of threes. Again, they're on the road, but obviously Columbia can't defend the 3 well, so they could fall. Near basket, Princeton shoots a lot of them, but they also suck at shooting those. Princeton, all they do well is shoot the 3. That's basically it. Everything else they do is dog shit. So if their threes aren't falling, they lose the game. And when they're on the road, that's simply not a good spot for you. On the other side, Columbia, they shoot mostly in the paint. they're going to find some success. They're going to have some success in offensive glass, some success in points off steals, some success from the three. Princeton, just that bad of a defensive team. The only thing they defend well is the mid-range, a shot that Columbia doesn't even take 20% of the time. So yeah, obviously, Princeton has played a much tougher schedule than this Columbia team. Regression-wise, Columbia is due for a decent chunk of positive regression. With only a little bit of season left to go, you assume maybe it's going to be hitting soon. Princeton due for a little bit of negative regression. If you look at their power ratings here, this Princeton team in the last 5 has fallen outside the top 300. Like, they've been playing really, really bad basketball. Last 10, top 250. On the other side, obviously Columbia has not been playing very well either. Their last 5, they're top 355 team. But they play really well at home. They have the 13th best home advantage in college basketball. Princeton, they do play better on the road, but we're getting them in kind of an awkward spot here. Columbia just went on a really long road trip where they lost to Yale, Brown, Harvard, and Dartmouth, all by significant amounts. Now they're coming back home, obviously, where they've been playing better. A team that played it pretty close to Dartmouth, beat Brown, kept it pretty close to Harvard, kept it pretty close to Yale, kept it pretty close to Cornell, beat Fairfield, beat New Hampshire, beat Stony Brook, beat Mercyhurst, beat Lehigh, beat Delaware. Like, they play only well at home, and then they go on the road. They are one of the worst teams in college basketball. Princeton on the other side, they're coming off a tough home loss to Dartmouth, but they have been so bad. It's not like they've been playing some elite teams. That's why they've been bad lately. They've just been bad. Like, they lost to an outside top 200 team. They barely beat Penn. They lost to Brown. They got crushed by Yale, demolished. And Columbia, even though Columbia lost their last game, Princeton has dominated its head-to-head in terms of winning. Columbia covered the 5.5, only lost by 4. Now you're getting them in their home environment where they play way better basketball. Yeah, give me Columbia here at home. I think Princeton continues to be a dud from 3, and Columbia can have a chance here to keep this game really, really close. All right, heading on to game number 4, we have Iowa heading on the road to play Northwestern. At -4, this is my favorite bet of the day. I think you can still get -4 on some books. I think it's moved to -4.5 on a couple, and -5 on a couple. But I really love the spot at -4 specifically. Even -5, I still like it. I think Northwestern, they've been playing, despite losing one of their best players recently, they have been playing really, really good basketball. They're still going to be without Barnhizer, who arguably is one of their most important players, at least rebounding-wise. But Iowa, on the other hand, is still going to be without Freeman, who is by far their most important player. Rebounder leader, point leader. Now, Sanford has stepped up big time, but I still think they basically only have 2 players, and the rest of their shooters aren't that good. Northwestern has a couple defenders that can really lock you up, and I think they're going to make it really tough on this Iowa team. Now, if you look at both of these teams' more recent games, Northwestern has been playing incredibly well. Starting in January, they beat Maryland at home. They lost to Michigan only by 4 on the road. They beat Indiana at home. They lost to Illinois by 9, Rutgers by 7, Wisconsin by 6, beat USC at home. And they went back on the road, kept it within 5 against Washington, 6 against Oregon, went back home, kept it within 4 against Nebraska. And now they just went on the road and had 2 very dominant wins. 21-point win over Ohio State and a 12-point win over Minnesota. Now they're coming back home where they have been playing historically much better basketball lately. And Iowa, who's played basically all their shit games, have been on the road. That's the last few games they played on the road, other than their win against Rutgers, was a 17-point loss against Ohio State, 24-point loss against UCLA, 10-point loss against USC, 26-point loss against Maryland, 20-point loss against Illinois. Now they're having to play the second game of a road trip, where Northwestern gets to go back at home. I just think this is a phenomenal spot here to back Northwestern. As home favorites, obviously they're 4-5 against the spread, but Iowa 2-6 against away underdogs. If you look at their offense matchup-wise, Northwestern has played a much harder schedule, has been the better team all year. They've got all the momentum. They have the better home court advantage. Obviously, Iowa plays really bad on the road, like really, really bad. Northwestern, their team offensively, that's going to have no problems against a really, really bad Iowa defense. They shoot a lot of mid-range. threes. They basically shoot everything around 30%. All three, they're going to have an Iowa defense that doesn't defend anything, even in the top 200. They're going to dominate the offensive glass against an Iowa team that falls outside the top 300 in terms of defending their own glass. So I think Northwestern's going to run up the score easily. Iowa, they're also a team that shoots everything pretty evenly, around 30%. They're going to find some success from 3 and mid-range, for sure. They're not really going to have any success in the paint against a Northwestern team that defends the paint well. They won't get to the line very much. Northwestern doesn't turn the ball over a lot, and you also won't get shots that many offensive boards against a top 50 Northwestern team in defending their own glass. So basically, Iowa, the only way they're going to win this game is if their threes and their mid-range shots are falling. But again, Northwestern has played a harder competition. I think they're going to find success here. They're the better, way better defensive team. Iowa's only a slightly better offensive team. But I think Northwestern, their huge advantage on the glass is going to give them a massive advantage. And they're going to control the pace of this game to be really pissed off Iowa, who likes to play a much, much faster pace. So give me Northwestern at home to cover this -4 number. All right, heading on to game number 5, we have Kent State heading on the road to play Akron. Now, on paper, I think, again, my model has Akron winning this game by 4. But I think this is a true revenge spot here with a Kent State team that I believe has been playing much better as of lately. And so if you look at their stats, obviously you're going to see that Akron is the much better team. But I do like this Kent State team. They've had to play much harder competition. They've had to play Alabama, Auburn. The hardest team that Akron's ever had to play was St. Mary's. So I think Kent State has the goals in them here to be able to step up to this better competition. And on paper, I think they have a decent matchup here. Obviously, Akron is the better offensive team. They shoot a shit ton of threes. Kent State's a decent three-point defense. They shoot a lot of near basket. Kent State, top 100 defense. Akron, they don't get any points off of the offensive glass. They typically rely on points off steals. Kent State is a top 100 team at limiting steals. On the other side, Kent State, they're a team that likes to shoot everything. They're going to find some success in points off steals against an Akron team that's not barely top 300. In terms of how many times they turn the ball over. They're going to have some success on the offensive glass with Kent being a top 100 team there. Obviously, Kent State may struggle a bit from 3 and near basket, where Akron is pretty solid defensively. But I don't think that this Kent State team doesn't match up well. I think they just had a really poor game when they played Akron last time. And if you look at their power ratings, you could argue that this is Akron getting to play at home, but this is more of Kent State being able to play on the road. When they've been playing at home, they've been not even a top 200 team. But when they play on the road, they are the best road team in the conference by far, and they move into basically a top 75 team. If you look at their last 5 rating, they've been a top 100 team. Akron falling as a top 200 in the last few games. I think they're kind of hitting that slowdown before the tournament now that they've finally lost a game. That momentum is kind of completely halted. And as road dogs, or as road team in general, this is a 7-3 Kent State team. As the home team, Akron's only 6-6. Getting Kent State here off of a really dominant win at home, where they beat Toledo by 40 points. Now they're heading on the road against an Akron team that just had a kind of a pathetic win over Ball State, where they almost lost. And this game is they're basically neighbors. This is basically an in-state rivalry between these two teams. We're getting in my opinion, almost to some degree, the better team in a revenge spot that matches up really well against this Akron team. I think they have a chance to win this game outright. If not, at least keep this game close enough to the point where it's just back and forth, 1-point game. So give me Kent State plus 3.5 on the road against Akron. All right, now to my leans. These are 3 games that the model likes that I, for whatever reason, don't want to touch. Purdue, they could easily cover this number, but they piss me off. I have no success betting them, no success betting against them. If you are going to bet this, I do recommend you take them first half, because they tend to show up big time and then implode. So Sacred Heart, this is just a regression play. I think Marist is due for a ton of regression, and Sacred Heart's due for a lot of regression, but the other way, positive regression. These teams really aren't that far off ranking-wise. I only have them 23 ranks different. So we're getting Sacred Heart at home here. Marist, just because they've been a better offensive team, you're getting, not getting them with points. So, I think Sacred Heart here can win this game and force a ton of turnovers from Marist team. And lastly, Cornell. Cornell should win this game by 12. But Penn has been playing really good lately. Like, they've kept it close or won outright against other Ivy League schools that I think are way, way better than them. So I'm not really comfortable taking almost a double-digit number here with Cornell, a team that kind of relies way too heavily on draining their threes. If they hit their threes, they could easily win this game by 50. But this is, I don't think this has too much of a tournament issue on either team. Penn's basically out already, and Cornell is, I think they're in, but barely in. But I don't think they have any risk of falling out. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm not touching that game. It's one of those things where Penn could come back and keep the game way too close. So yeah, those are the 5 games that I have bet for college basketball tomorrow. And I will see you guys tomorrow.